Adiz Nwankwo's hands trembled as she signed the document that would change her life forever. The pen felt heavy, like it weighed 1,000 regrets. Across the table, the man in the expensive suit, Obiora, smiled that oily smile that made her stomach turn. Behind him, 2 men stood silent, watching. Waiting. Smart choice, Obiora said, sliding the papers into his briefcase. Your family's debt will be cleared within the week. And you, my dear, are going to have the opportunity of a lifetime in Seoul. Opportunity. The word tasted like ash in her mouth. But what choice did she have? Her father Chidi sat beside her, his shoulders slumped, unable to meet her eyes. Her mother Ngozi was crying silently in the corner of their small Lagos apartment. 87 million naira. That's what their lives cost. That's what her freedom cost. When do I leave? Adiz asked, her voice steadier than she felt. 3 days. We'll handle everything. Visa, flight, accommodation. You just need to pack. 3 days to say goodbye to everything she knew. 3 days before she became whatever they needed her to be. The flight to Seoul was 14 hours of numbness. Adiz sat in business class, which should have been exciting for a 22-year-old who'd never left Nigeria. Instead, she stared out the window, watching clouds pass like ghosts, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. The contract said executive liaison for a Korean African trade company. 3 years. Good salary. Legal work visa. It all looked legitimate on paper. But her gut screamed otherwise. Incheon Airport hit her like a wave. Everything was glass and steel and Korean characters she couldn't read despite studying the language for 2 years at university. She pushed her cart through customs, scanning the crowd for the HR representative Obiora promised would meet her. Instead, she saw a man holding a sign with her name. He was Korean, maybe 50, with a face like carved stone. No smile. No welcome. Miss Nwankwo. I am Mr. Song. Follow me. His English was perfect but cold. Adiz followed him to a black Mercedes that screamed money in all the wrong ways. Where's the company office? She asked as they merged into Seoul traffic. We're going there now. But they weren't heading to any business district. The buildings grew taller, more luxurious. They entered Hanam-dong, where only the wealthy lived. Adiz's unease grew with every turn. The car stopped in front of a 40-story glass tower. Mr. Song led her inside, past a lobby that looked like a 5-star hotel, into an elevator that required a fingerprint to access the top floors. Mr. Song, I think there's been a mistake. This isn't. No mistake. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked all of Seoul, glittering in the afternoon sun. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her parents' entire apartment. Art on the walls that belonged in museums. And standing by the window, looking out at his city like he owned it, was a man with his back to her. Miss Nwankwo has arrived, sir, Mr. Song announced. The man turned, and Adiz's breath caught. He was tall for a Korean man, maybe 6 feet, wearing a charcoal suit tailored perfectly to his frame. His face was all sharp angles and intense eyes that studied her like she was a problem to be solved. He looked about 37, successful, powerful, dangerous. Adiz Nwankwo, he said, his English flawless with barely an accent. I am Kang Hyun-woo. Welcome to Seoul. Where's the office? Adiz asked, her voice sharp. Where's the company? You're standing in it. He moved toward her with the grace of a predator. Would you like something to drink? You must be tired from the flight. I want answers. What is this? Where am I really? Kang Hyun-woo's expression didn't change. He gestured to a white leather sofa. Sit. We need to discuss your contract. I read my contract. Executive liaison for trade operations between Korea and West Africa. That's what I signed up for. And that's what you'll be. In a sense. He sat across from her, crossing his legs. But the role is more specific than Obiora explained. Adiz's blood went cold. What does that mean? It means you'll be my fiancé. The words hung in the air like poison. Adiz stood abruptly. Excuse me. For 3 years, you will accompany me to business functions, social events, and international meetings as my partner. You'll live here, play the role convincingly, and help me establish credibility with Western business partners who are, shall we say, skeptical of Korean companies with certain reputations. You're insane. I'm not doing this. Give me my passport, I'm going home. Your passport is being processed for your work visa. And you can't go home, Miss Nwankwo. Not without consequences. What consequences? Kang Hyun-woo pulled out a tablet, tapping it a few times before turning it toward her. On the screen was a contract. Her signature at the bottom. But this wasn't the version she'd signed in Lagos. This is the real agreement. The one that's legally binding in both South Korea and Nigeria. You see Clause 17? If you break this contract, your family becomes responsible for the full debt, plus penalties. That's 260 million naira. Your father's business will be seized. Your family's home will be taken. And Obayora's associates are not known for their patience with debtors. Adiz felt the room spin. You can't do this. This is human trafficking. This is business, he interrupted, his voice flat. Everything is legal. You have a work visa. You'll be paid a salary. You'll live in luxury. In 3 years, you'll return to Nigeria with enough money to start whatever life you want. All you have to do is play a role. I'm not your property. No, you're not. You're my employee. There's a difference. Is there? Adiz's voice cracked, fury and fear mixing in her chest. You bought me. You trapped my family and you bought me. For the first time, something flickered in Kang Hyun-woo's eyes. Not quite guilt, but something close to acknowledgement. Yes, he said simply. I did. And I'm not going to apologize for it because we both know I'm not sorry. But I will tell you this, you'll be safe here. I won't touch you. I won't hurt you. You'll have your own room, your own space. All I need is for you to smile in public and act like you chose this. I hate you. Good. Hate is useful. Hate keeps you sharp. He stood, walking back to the window. Mr. Song will show you to your quarters. We have a business dinner tomorrow night. I suggest you rest and prepare yourself. You're about to become one of the most photographed women in Seoul. Adiz wanted to scream, to fight, to run. But where would she go? She was in a country where she barely spoke the language, with no money, no passport, and a family back home whose lives depended on her compliance. She was trapped. Mr. Song led her down a hallway to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire childhood home. King-sized bed with silk sheets. A bathroom with a soaking tub. A closet already filled with designer clothes in her exact size. They'd planned everything. Every detail of her captivity was meticulously arranged. When the door closed and she was finally alone, Adiz sat on the edge of the bed and let herself break. Not loud, she wouldn't give them that satisfaction. But silent tears tracked down her face, hot and bitter. She was 22 years old, fresh out of university with dreams of building something meaningful. Now she was a prop in a rich man's theater. She cried until there were no tears left. Then she washed her face, looked at herself in the mirror, and made a decision. If she had to play this role, she'd find a way to survive it. And somehow, some way, she'd find a way out. The next 3 weeks blurred together in a haze of preparation. Mr. Song arranged Korean language lessons with a tutor who spoke no English, forcing Adiz to learn fast. Etiquette coaches taught her how to bow, how to hold a wine glass at formal dinners, how to smile without it reaching her eyes. A stylist came daily, teaching her which designers Kang Hyun-woo preferred, which colors photographed best, which jewelry made the right statement. She was being molded into someone else. Someone polished and perfect and completely fake. Kang Hyun-woo mostly avoided her during those weeks. He left early, came home late, barely acknowledged her presence except to critique her progress during the few dinners they shared. Your posture is too stiff, he'd say. You look like you're at a funeral, not a social event. Maybe because I feel dead inside, Adiz shot back. Clever. But save the bitterness for private. In public, you're madly in love with me. I'd rather eat glass. He almost smiled at that. Almost. You have spirit. That's good. The completely broken ones are boring. His cruelty was casual, like he didn't even register her as fully human. Just another business asset to manage. The first public appearance was a charity gala at the Schiller Hotel. Adiz wore an emerald dress that hugged every curve, her hair styled in elegant braids that took 4 hours. When she emerged from her room, Kang Hyun-woo was waiting by the elevator, adjusting his cufflinks. He looked up, and for just a second, his expression changed. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. Don't what? Don't pretend this is real. Don't give me compliments like we're actually a couple." His jaw tightened. "I'm not pretending. You do look beautiful. That's simply a fact. A fact that benefits you. I'm packaging, right? The diverse, international girlfriend who makes you look progressive." "Yes," he said bluntly. "That's exactly what you are. I thought we established this already." The honesty was somehow worse than lies would have been. At least lies would have shown he cared enough to deceive her. This casual acknowledgement of her dehumanization cut deeper. The gala was overwhelming. Cameras flashed the moment they stepped out of the Mercedes. Reporters shouted questions in Korean that Adiz couldn't fully understand. Kang Hyun-woo's hand settled on her lower back, guiding her forward, and she forced herself not to flinch at his touch. Inside, the ballroom glittered with wealth. CEOs, celebrities, politicians. Everyone who was anyone in Seoul's elite circles. And every single person stared at her. Some with curiosity, others with barely concealed disapproval. A few with something that looked like pity. "Smile," Kang Hyun-woo murmured in her ear. "They're watching." So Adiz smiled. She smiled until her face hurt. She bowed when introduced to business associates whose names she instantly forgot. She laughed at jokes she didn't understand. She let Kang Hyun-woo's arm stay wrapped around her waist like she belonged to him. And through it all, she died a little inside. During dinner, while Kang Hyun-woo discussed semiconductor exports with a Japanese businessman, a woman leaned over from the next table. She was Korean, maybe 40, with kind eyes. "First time at one of these?" she asked in English. "That obvious? Only to someone who's been where you are." The woman smiled sadly. "I'm Yumi. I married into this world 15 years ago. Advice? Learn which battles to fight and which to survive. Not everything is worth your soul." Before Adiz could respond, Kang Hyun-woo's hand tightened on her shoulder. A warning. She turned back to her untouched plate, feeling more alone than ever. The evening dragged on for hours. By the time they returned to the penthouse, Adiz's face ached from fake smiling and her feet screamed from designer heels. She kicked off her shoes the moment they entered, not caring that they probably cost more than her father's monthly salary. "You did well tonight," Kang Hyun-woo said, loosening his tie. "Very convincing." "Glad I performed adequately," Adiz replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Will that be all, or do you need me to curtsy? Your hostility is showing." "Good. At least something real is showing." He studied her for a long moment. "Why do you fight so hard? This would be easier if you just accepted it." "Easier for who?" "You." Adiz laughed bitterly. "You want me to just roll over and be grateful for my gilded cage? You want me to thank you for buying me like I'm some kind of luxury accessory? I want you to be pragmatic. You can spend 3 years miserable, or you can make the best of the situation. The outcome is the same either way. The outcome is the same for you. For me, the outcome is 3 years of my life stolen. 3 years I'll never get back. 3 years where I could have been building my career, falling in love with someone I chose, living freely. You took that from me." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite guilt, but something close. "You're right," he said quietly. "I did take that from you. And if it helps, I do think about it." "It doesn't help. Thinking about it doesn't undo it." "No, it doesn't." He turned toward his study. "Good night, Adiz." She watched him walk away, this man who held her life in his hands, and felt something unexpected. Not sympathy, not forgiveness, but a tiny crack in her absolute hatred. He was broken too, in his own way. That didn't excuse what he'd done, but it made him more complex than the monster she'd built in her mind. That night, around 3 in the morning, Adiz woke to the sound of piano music. Haunting, melancholy notes drifting through the penthouse. She followed the sound to a room she'd never entered before. The door was slightly open, and through the gap, she saw Kang Hyun-woo at a grand piano, his eyes closed, playing like his life depended on it. The music was beautiful and devastating, full of longing and loss and something that sounded like regret. This was the man beneath the cold exterior. This was what he couldn't say with words. Adiz didn't announce herself. She just listened until the song ended, until he sat in silence with his hands resting on the keys. Then she went back to bed, her heart confused by what she'd witnessed. The following weeks brought more events, more performances. But something had shifted between them. Kang Hyun-woo was less cold, more careful with his words. Sometimes he asked her opinion on business matters. Sometimes he explained Korean customs without her having to ask. Small gestures that acknowledged her humanity. And against every instinct, Adiz found herself responding. Not forgiving him, but engaging with him. Their dinners became conversations instead of silent obligations. He told her about growing up as the youngest son in the Kang family, about his older brother Daejung who ran the family's criminal empire. "I built this company to escape them," he admitted one night over Korean barbecue that Adiz had learned to cook. "Everything legitimate, everything clean. But you can't really escape your blood. My brother still calls when he needs the family business to look respectable. Still expects me to play my part. Is that why you needed me?" Adiz asked. "To look even more respectable?" "Partly. Western investors don't trust Korean companies with rumored organized crime connections. But a tech CEO with an educated black fiancé? That plays well internationally. Makes me look progressive, modern, disconnected from my family's past. So I'm your PR strategy. You're my lifeline," he corrected. "Without international partnerships, my company fails. Without my company, I have to crawl back to my brother. And I'd rather die." The raw honesty caught her off guard. "What does your brother do exactly?" "Things I stopped doing when I was 25. Things that keep me awake at night remembering." He didn't elaborate, and Adiz didn't push. But she filed the information away, understanding him a little better. He was trapped too, just in a different kind of cage. 2 months into her contract, everything changed. They were at a corporate dinner with Japanese tech executives at a restaurant in Gangnam. Kang Hyun-woo had excused himself to take a call, leaving Adiz at the table making small talk with an executive's wife who spoke excellent English. Then the lights went out. Not dimmed for ambience, completely black. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. And Adiz heard shouting in Korean, aggressive and threatening. Men in suits burst into the private dining room. 5 of them, moving with military precision. The lead man grabbed the Japanese CEO by his collar, shouting demands that Adiz couldn't understand but recognized as threats. She saw a gun. Her heart stopped. Then Kang Hyun-woo was there, appearing from nowhere, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Kim Tae-won. You're making a mistake." The man with the gun turned, smiling viciously. "Ah, Kang Hyun-woo. We were hoping you'd show up. Your brother sends his regards." "My brother has nothing to do with my business dealings. That's the problem. You've been very careful to distance yourself. Very careful to go legitimate. But blood is blood, Kang. And your brother owes us. Since we can't collect from him, we'll collect from you." Kang Hyun-woo's expression didn't change, but Adiz saw his hand move subtly to his phone in his pocket. "Texting someone. Calling for help." "Let my guests go," he said calmly. "Your issue is with me. Your issue is our issue now. Especially her." Kim Tae-won's gun swung toward Adiz. "Pretty thing. African, right? I bet your brother would pay good money to get her back. Or maybe we keep her ourselves." Ice flooded Adiz's veins. This was it. This was how she died in a foreign country because of a debt that had nothing to do with her. But Kang Hyun-woo moved. Faster than she'd ever seen anyone move. He threw himself between Adiz and the gun, his body shielding hers. "Touch her and you die," he said, his voice absolutely lethal. "I don't care what my brother owes you. She's off limits." How romantic. The cold ghost actually cares about something. Last warning, Kim. The standoff lasted maybe 10 seconds but felt like eternity. Then sirens wailed outside. Police, arriving fast. Too fast to be coincidence. Kang Hyun-woo had called them before entering the room. Kim Tae-won cursed, backing toward the exit with his men. "This isn't over, Kang. Tell your brother we're coming for all of you. They disappeared into the Seoul night. Police flooded in moments later, taking statements, securing the scene. Through it all, Kang Hyun-woo kept his body between Adiz and everyone else, his hand on her arm, steady and grounding. Are you hurt? He asked, his eyes scanning her face with genuine concern. No. I'm fine. I think. We're leaving. Now. He didn't take her back to the penthouse. Instead, they went to a smaller apartment in Itaewon, one of Seoul's international districts. A safe house, she realized. Somewhere his brother didn't know about. The apartment was modest compared to the penthouse. One bedroom, small kitchen, simple furniture. Kang Hyun-woo checked the windows, locked the door, then finally seemed to breathe. What just happened? Adiz demanded, her shock giving way to anger. Who were those men? Why did they want to kill us? My brother's past caught up with us. Kim Tae-won runs a rival organization. They've been at war for years. He thought grabbing me would give him leverage. And me? What was I? Collateral damage? Kang Hyun-woo's jaw clenched. You were bait. He saw you at the gala. Knew you were connected to me. I should have anticipated this. I should have protected you better. You did protect me. You literally stood in front of a gun for me. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something cracked in his carefully maintained facade. Of course I did. Did you think I'd let them hurt you? I don't know what to think anymore. One minute you're telling me I'm just a business arrangement, the next you're taking bullets for me. I lied. What? When I said you were just business. I lied. He ran a hand through his hair, a rare show of agitation. You think I don't see you? You think I haven't noticed how you hum Afrobeat songs when you cook? How you fall asleep reading on the couch with your glasses sliding down your nose? How you argue with me like no one else dares to? Adiz's heart hammered. Don't do this. I'm falling for you, Adiz. And it's the cruelest thing I've ever done to either of us because you can never love me back. How could you? I bought you. I trapped you. I'm everything you should hate. You're right. I should hate you. I do hate you. But her voice wavered. Part of me, anyway. But part of me sees a man who just risked his life for mine. Who plays sad songs on the piano at 3 in the morning. Who's trying to escape his family's sins even though it's destroying him. Adiz. I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not saying I love you. But I'm saying maybe we're both trapped in this thing. And maybe we figure it out together instead of alone. The space between them felt charged, electric. Kang Hyun-woo took a step closer, his hand reaching up to cup her face with surprising gentleness. If we do this, if we try this, I need you to know I'll spend every day trying to deserve you. Even though I never will. Then I guess you'll have to become someone who can. When he kissed her, it wasn't the cold, performative kisses they'd shared for cameras. It was desperate and tender and tasted like possibility. And for the first time since arriving in Seoul, Adiz kissed back. The next morning, everything looked different. Kang Hyun-woo sat across from her at the small kitchen table, both of them drinking coffee in comfortable silence. But reality couldn't be ignored forever. We need to talk about the contract, Adiz said finally. About what happens next. I'll have my lawyers draw up a new agreement. You'll be a genuine business partner, not a prop. Real salary, real equity in the company, complete freedom of movement. And my family's debt. Already being handled. I'm paying it off through legitimate channels, no strings attached to you. Adiz studied him. Why? Why change everything now? Because you're right. I can become better. But I can't do it while keeping you in a cage. He reached across the table, taking her hand. I want you to choose to stay, Adiz. Not because you have to, but because you want to. If that means you leave, then you leave. I won't stop you. 8 months passed like a fever dream. Kang Hyun-woo kept his word. New contracts were drawn up making Adiz Vice President of International Development. She used her business degree and Nigerian connections to expand the company into African markets legitimately. They became real partners, working side by side, building something genuine. The attraction between them grew slowly, carefully. He courted her properly this time. Dates where she chose the restaurant. Conversations that lasted until dawn. shared laughter over cultural misunderstandings. He learned to make jollof rice her way. She learned Korean beyond business phrases. They taught each other, healed each other, chose each other every single day. But the past never stays buried. Kang Dae-jung, Hyun-woo's brother, discovered the restructured company and the changing power dynamics. He appeared at the penthouse one night, fury radiating from every pore. "You're cutting family out," he snarled in Korean. "Betraying your blood for this woman?" Hyun-woo stood his ground, at ease beside him. "I'm building something clean, Hyung. Something that won't destroy us. I'll destroy you myself. I'll expose everything. The original contract, how you brought her here, the trafficking charges you'll face. And her family in Lagos. My associates there will make them suffer." But Adiz had been preparing for this. She'd documented everything over the past months. Every conversation, every business dealing, every piece of evidence showing both Hyun-woo's transformation and his brother's ongoing criminal activities. "Go ahead," she said in careful Korean. "Expose us. We're already planning to expose you." The next week, they held a press conference. Together, they told everything. The exploitation, the trafficking, the forced contract. But also the change, the redemption, the choice to make things right. Hyun-woo accepted full responsibility, agreed to pay fines, serve probation. His testimony helped prosecutors build a case against his brother's organization. The media storm was brutal. Some called Adiz a victim suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Others called her complicit. But she stood firm, telling her truth in her own words. She'd been exploited, yes. But she'd fought back. She'd changed the terms. And now she was free. If you're still watching this, drop a comment telling me what you think. Would you have made the same choice as Adiz? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're bringing you more powerful stories like this every week. Your support means everything. 2 years later, Adiz stood in her own office at the company headquarters. Not the penthouse, but a real office with her name on the door in both English and Korean. She was now Chief Operating Officer, having proven herself through actual merit, not circumstance. The company thrived through legitimate African partnerships she'd built from scratch. Kang Hyun-woo appeared in her doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Working late again? These Nairobi contracts won't review themselves." She accepted the coffee, smiling. "What about you? I thought you had dinner with the board." "Cancelled it. I'd rather have dinner with you." They'd married again 6 months ago. A real wedding this time, with her family present. Her father had cried, apologized again. She'd forgiven him, or was learning to. Forgiveness was a process, not a destination. Now Hyun-woo crossed the office, pulling her close. "I was thinking about something. Dangerous habit. Very funny." He kissed her forehead. "I was thinking about how you changed everything. How you took the worst situation and transformed it into something beautiful. We transformed it. Together." "Together," he agreed. "Always together now." Adiz looked out at Seoul's skyline, this city that had been her prison and became her home. She thought about the girl who'd arrived here 2 years ago, terrified and trapped. She'd survived. More than survived. She'd thrived. The story didn't have a neat ending because life never does. There were still hard days, still moments when the trauma resurfaced. Still therapy sessions and difficult conversations. But there was also love. Real love. The kind built on choice and equality and mutual respect. "Hyun-woo. Yes. Thank you for letting me go. So I could choose to come back." He held her tighter. "Thank you for coming back." Outside, Seoul glittered with possibilities. Inside, 2 people who'd found each other in the darkest circumstances stood together, building toward light. Not perfect, not without scars, but free. Finally, completely free. Before you go, smash that like button if this story moved you. Comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories that'll make you think, feel, and see the world differently. Share this with someone who needs to hear that redemption is possible, that change is real, and that sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep choosing growth, and keep believing in second chances.